start the recording. Okay, so now everything from now until I tell it to stop recording is being recorded. And say you're studying Wednesday night, and also something, you kind of remember I said something, you can go to the archive, right? You can't sign on because it's not live anymore. You go to Teach and Confer, right? cccconfer.org, Teach and Confer, then you click on the archive, not the sign in link, archive, and then you sign in again, basically, and you can watch the recording. Okay, and it goes through. All right. And so in Blackboard, I'll open this up again for you to see. In the on the instructions for CCC Confer, this one up here, to view an archive or recorded, basically, so the same thing, except you hit View Archive instead of locating the meeting. Okay, because it's already passed. Okay. All right. And we'll see how that works. Okay, and I've used this to have tutoring sessions during the week. Okay, if people need help with problems and stuff like that, people can sign on. We can go through the problems. Okay, it's a really nice system. All right, here's our class. Is there anybody here that's not registered? Okay, come and see me immediately. not immediately. As soon as we take a break, so we can see. I'll see what I can do about that. All right, so let's go ahead and go through here. So here's a textbook. Karen Timberlake, the new version, the old version. It doesn't matter which edition you get. It doesn't matter if the international edition. It doesn't matter whether it's hard copy or loose leaf or soft cover. Blackboard, you all have to know how to do that. There's the course number. Both Dr. Ganjule and I are your instructors for this course. She is teaching the labs on Saturday mornings, and I'm doing the lectures on Friday evenings. Email is really the best way to get hold of me. And what I would ask that you do when you send me an email, in the subject line, write CHEM 109. Okay, so that I know it's from you. Okay, I get a lot of emails that have nothing in the subject line, and I just delete them. And if it says something like, here's the stuff you wanted, I definitely delete those. Okay, so this. And people will say, well, did you get the email? I said, well, did you put that in? So my micro class, they put micro. My health class, they put health. And this, you will put CHEM 109, so I know it's from you. Okay? Dr. Ganguly is her email also right there, if you need to get a hold of her, as we did. So, important dates. September 4th is not too many days from now. In fact, Tuesday. If you want to drop this class and get some of your money back, you have to do it by that day. September 7th, just a few days after that, is the last day to drop this class without any grade appearing on your transcript. So it's like you never existed. Right? You won't get any money back. Then November 15th is the last day to drop and get a W, withdraw on your exam. Okay? If you find that for instance, you kind of stick it out for a little while and realize that you can't really make it on Friday nights and Saturday mornings, then you really should withdraw. Because if you stay enrolled in the class and you don't take the exams and do the homework and stuff, I have no choice but to give you a failure. Okay? And September 28th is our first exam. Okay? And we will do that in this room somehow. And those days, it's just the exam. There's no lectures, even though there should be, there's no lecture. There's no point in it. If I lecture before the exam, everybody's worried about the exam and doesn't pay attention. And if I try and lecture after the exam, everybody just doesn't pay attention. They're too tired and want to go home. So there's the way things are scored for this class. Point system, so 500 points, 75 for each of the midterms, 100 for the final. Your lab, you have 2 quizzes worth 50 points each. That's worth a lot. Okay. The quizzes that we're going to do every week online are kind of homework. I really want you to try and do them by yourself. A project at the end, 50 points. Must come to class, must do your work, must come to class and work, must do your assignments. And I have this up here, you make the course. That's really true. I haven't had too much of an issue with students in this class. It works out pretty well. In my micro class and my health class, you know, it's the same class every semester that I teach, right? It's not, I don't teach it differently, right? Or very differently. And some semesters, it's really great, you know. Everybody learns a lot, we make a lot of progress, and everybody has a good time. And other semesters, it's been horrible, okay? And I'm the same person teaching the same class. It's not me that's changing, okay? It's the students. And if you don't, how many people want to go into nursing? Right? If you can't get along with the people in this room, you're going to make a horrible nurse, okay? So, you know, you've got to be able to get along. And in fact, when I write letters of recommendation for people going to nursing programs, they don't want to know your grades from me. They already know your grades, right? They see your transcripts. They want to know who you are and what you like. And in fact, they ask that. How does this person get along with other people? Do they work better by themselves in a team? How do they work? Okay? They want to know those things about you. Okay? And I've had in my micro class one semester, people screaming at each other in lab. Okay? And it was, you know, a situation that was probably the worst of all possible cases. There was a woman there who was pretty, you know, kind of along in her career, and she had a lot of experience, and you know, she kind of knew what she was doing in lab, right? And her husband was in there also, and that was not who she was yelling at, because I made sure they didn't work together. But there was this young guy, and he was, you know, like just starting his education, and he wasn't very good in lab. And his girlfriend was in there, and I made sure they didn't work together. And so those two, this woman woman that was well along in her career and this young guy were working together. And he just was not up to it for her, you know. But he was learning, right? That's why he was there. If he already knew everything, why shouldn't he take the course? And, you know, she was like on him all the time. And you know, his girlfriend is there, and he's not going to take anything from out of his girlfriend being there. And it was a bad situation. I had to take them out and tell them that, you know, that had to stop, and I had to give them a lecture, and it was pretty bad. So let's not have that. You don't have to like the people here, but you just have to pretend you do, okay? Just like at work, or if you're a nurse, right? You might not necessarily like the people, but it doesn't matter. You've got to get the job done, okay? And look at it that way, okay? It's more important to get the job done. Think of those nurses and healthcare workers in the emergency room, right? They've got to work together better than anybody in the world, probably, to save people's lives, okay? And maybe they don't get along, but it doesn't matter, okay? They can do the job. They can work together and figure out a way to get it done. They don't have to hang out after work together, anything like that. So it's really you people that make this class, and it can be really good. In fact, I don't think I've ever had a bad experience in Chem 109. I've only taught the Friday, Saturday. Okay. And you'll get to work together a lot in lab. I don't know how she's going to arrange it, but I always like to keep people moving around in lab, working with different people. So, why this course, right? Most of you, probably you need some chemistry to get into a nursing program, right? That's great. In fact, this school came up with this course specifically for you. Okay. It is set up for the health people, okay? For the health students. And that's really good. And so a lot of things, because of my background, I'll try and bring those sorts of things into the discussion. So what is chemistry, right? Why don't you tell me? What's your name? Hold it. Swati. What's chemistry? Okay. Okay. Putting things together, watching reactions. Have fun. Anybody want any money on the roulette table? Go in and give it. Okay. All right. Let's hear from this table over here. What's chemistry? Who is Cindy? Oh, Cindy moved. Who is oh, no, you didn't move. Cindy, what's chemistry? Okay. All right. How things react together. Is it Lena? Who's that? What's chemistry, Lena? Am I pronouncing that right? Lena? Okay. What's chemistry to you? Reactions. Okay, everybody's thinking of these reactions. All right. That's the fun, certainly the fun part of chemistry. Putting something in something else and watching something explode. And what about, who's John? Tell me, John, what's chemistry to you? Great. Okay, that's my next question. Has anybody ever seen, oops, maybe it's not my next question. So, the study of chemicals, all right. So, can you get away from the chemicals? Right. When you go, sometimes maybe you go to the grocery store and you pick up a little package of food and it says chemical free. Right? Is that possible? No, it's impossible actually. Okay. The very air that's in this room is a chemical. Okay. Chris is going around getting everybody set up. I'm loving it. Thank you very much. I appreciate the effort. Yeah, so you cannot get away from chemicals. They are everywhere. Everything. Okay. The food we eat, the air we breathe, the makeup of our bodies. Okay. And they come in different forms. Okay. Which we're going to talk about. So there are. Actually, we'll get to that, I think, in the second part of the lecture. So you will learn a lot. That thing up there on the wall, the periodic table of elements, those are the elements, are the most fundamental chemicals that exist. And on there, you might see, hopefully my microphone is on this floor, the H, the HE, the LI, and BE, and B, the C, and N, O. So that O is oxygen. That's the system breathes. It's an element that we need that to survive. Okay. And so you will learn a lot about that table up there in the coming weeks. And a lot about those elements, but a lot about all the other chemicals that we deal with too, like the plastics, okay, that make us these little markers, and the chemicals that are inside of us. In particular, as we get further and further to the end of the semester, we're going to learn more and more about the things inside of us. So we will go through what's called inorganic chemistry. I believe we will use this passcode every week. Okay? And it is on those instructions online, on Blackboard. So we will go through what is called inorganic chemistry, basically to understand how those elements work together. Okay? And we will talk about how we look at the elements and compounds. Okay? So we'll study the atom, a fundamental unit of chemistry, the elements that are made up of, the things that are made up of only a single type of atom, the compounds that are multiple types of atoms put together, okay? And then we will talk a little bit about organic chemistry, the chemistry that is based on the carbon molecule, and the chemicals, you know, it's not absolutely true anymore, but what used to be the chemicals that came from living things, okay? We now have plastics that are organic chemicals that do not come from living things. We make these ourselves. And then we'll study biochemistry. Right at the very end. And this is the study of chemistry that takes place in biological systems. Okay? And so that will include fats, proteins, carbohydrates, and nucleic acids. Anybody recognize 3 out of the 4 of those things? Anybody ever try to gain weight or lose weight, and you go on a diet, and you start monitoring your food? These are the nutrients. That's it. That's where we get our energy from and our body parts from. This is not a nutrient. That's the information molecule that allows us to eat those nutrients and use them for energy. And so, hopefully we'll get all the way through. I was told I have to have that metabolic pathways chapter covered this semester. So, what chapter is that? Is it chapter 18? Keep that in mind. Even if I have only 5 minutes left at the last lecture, I'm going to cover that entire chapter. Okay, so we need to start with the basic stuff, okay? Before we even get to this, atoms and elements and compounds, we need to talk about some basic information you need to know just about science in general. And you may already know all this. Okay, so I'm going to probably go through kind of fast. Everybody knows how to measure something, right? What's your name? Ariel, right? Ariel Fields. You know how to measure stuff, right? Height, weight. Okay. So we're going to go through those, and then we're going to see what the measurements are when we kind of combine a couple of those things. Okay? That's things like energy, okay, and density, specific heat. So I think in lab you're going to do some density stuff, right? So you know what? We did this before. We'll keep like a list of words over here, all right?